My name is Paula Hollywood. I'm a senior analyst at ARC Advisory Group, and I'm going to begin with some opening remarks about this convergence question, and then we're going to hear from some great speakers, and then have hopefully a great panel discussion. Okay. This is the fourth iteration that I've done of this particular session. And this particular slide I took from one of the first sessions, so that would have been 4 years ago. And it was a presentation by a pharma company. The presenter at that time said that his company had started converging 20 years ago, so now it's closer to 25. But if you look at what the problems are and what the goals are, we really haven't come that far in 20 years because I think they're the same. But I think what has changed, thanks in large part to convergence, are the technologies to help us tackle these problems and issues. We still have the problems of lower cost, longer timelines, less disruption with upgrades and migrations, as well as downtime. Need for more clarity. The variability of practices and knowledge across the sites is higher than desired. I think that's still true today. Cybersecurity persists as a risk for all of us and getting more entrenched all the time. You have to be really nimble when it comes to that. The synchronization of technology, I think we've gotten better at, but we still have a ways to go. And the need to provide robust inputs into capital and resource planning, because that's really what managing your assets is all about, or at least partly. Inventories, we want them to be effective and easily accomplished. We want control of those supply chains. We want to control the costs of our stores and all of that. We want to make sure the architectures that we employ are optimized for TCO. That the assessments are performed, number one, and that they're based on risk. And we want to be able to plan our capital expenditures and make sure they're capable and robust. I'll just kind of skip over the team deliverables because that was specific to them, but I think a lot of that still applies. So, think back to Andy Chaffe's keynote address on hot topics. This is his list. If you think about it, they're all enablers of convergence. And some of them actually are as well as the product of convergence. For example, servitization and digital twins, I believe, are the product of IT, OT, ET convergence. And I didn't really think about this particular thought or concept, but the World Economic Forum views convergence as an opportunity to create value. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought that that made sense. It's an opportunity to do something different. And the fun fact is that according to the World Economic Forum, the three key functions driving IoT investment are asset tracking, right up our alley. It's what this conference, a lot of this conference has been about. Condition-based maintenance, we got to that too. And robotics processing. So that's what they see as the three primary investments for IoT. Of course, the threat to all of us is the disruption to our business and industry, and we're feeling that. All of us are. Even in the analyst world, we're feeling those changes. But a newsflash, the genie's out of the bottle and you can't put it back. The opportunity, however, is great because it represents the chance to innovate and place the foundation for our future. Now, when I went to use this slide, this has been developed for a while, excuse me, it actually did not contain the future out here over to the right. On your side, I guess. So I kind of took a stab at this. And I'd be curious if we could have some discussion about this in the panel session and what you think about my thoughts. Because after what Don Bartusiak said in the panel the other day, he sees our future as still replacing control systems from the 70s and 80s. So that means we haven't really come that far. But optimistically, I'm hoping for a lights out, intelligent factory with self-aware assets. I'm hoping that the skills are going to require, at least, I should rephrase that, proactive problem solvers. Excuse me. The responsibilities will be a limited human intervention with self-healing assets. I haven't heard too much about those. That was hot a few years back, maybe a decade, but I haven't heard a lot about that lately, but we could get back there. And then the resource model would be exponential, what's called exponential manufacturing technologies and innovation ecosystems, as opposed to digital ecosystems. Now, just to explain here, exponential technologies are those that enable change at a rapidly accelerating nonlinear pace, facilitated by substantial progress and cost reduction in areas such as computing power, bandwidth, and data storage. We're getting there very quickly. The complex data analytics and distributed virtual manufacturing, the future intelligent factory will operate with agility and intelligence to improve their functioning with little or no human intervention. The hard truth is, though, most industrial plants fail to use their data effectively. In fact, the World Economic Forum, we've heard some statistics around this conference, but the World Economic Forum estimates that 85% of potential assets remain unconnected. I don't think that's true for most of these people, most of the people in this room, but I have to believe that that's probably the reality around the world. So my position is that OT and IT have more in common than not. That's represented by that middle there, and we can kind of think of that as the ET. But the OT professionals prioritize safety of personnel, process in the environment, protect the brand, and the risk of business interruption. IT thinks about performance, security, and data integrity. And in my view, ET is the arbiter of what's possible between O and I. It helps to drive the right balance between the two of them. So we need to respect each other and collaborate with each other as we go forward. We can't go back. It's the only way to go forward. Now, I used this example from Suncor. Suncor presented in this session last year. And if you were in the Asset Health session on Tuesday, Daniel Dasher from Suncor elaborated on this information quite a bit. But last year, this example was Suncor using their asset data as the foundation for its operational excellence as well as digital transformation. And he was quite honest about why. And the reason why was because they had at least one incident. He didn't say how many, but I'm guessing it was more than one, but perhaps less than 3. And if Daniel, you're in the room, I apologize, I would never put you on the spot about this, but that they could not identify the correct asset record. And that caused a lot of problems and prolonged delay and loss. And so that was the reason why they decided to use asset data as that foundation. Their position is that the data must be complete, accessible, current, and trustworthy. And I couldn't agree with that more. Also, one of the panelists who will be joining us when we get there gave an example last year of using free data because he worked for a municipality. He didn't have any money, but he found a new source of data that was readily available that he could use and employ in his process to make things better. So it requires some resourcefulness, I think, in this domain. And engineers are nothing if they're not resourceful, right? Excuse me, emerging generation of digital twins enabling technology, because in my humble opinion, digital twins are the pinnacle of IT, OT, ET convergence. And the reason for using the Suncor example is if data is not reliable, how can the digital twin be reliable? It drives home the message, again, that the data must be complete, accessible, current, and trustworthy. You need to trust your data and treat it as the valuable asset that it is. So what are the benefits of some of this convergence? For IT, we reduce the silos that result in reduced operating costs. They optimize the business processes. They optimize the user experience. Certainly on the consumer side these days, we're hearing a lot about the consumer experience, aren't we? And that's proliferating. It's kind of migrating into our side too. What do our users want? We have to enhance that experience. And they want better management of data and processes. On the OT side, we want more real-time information for deeper process understanding, stable operations, and better management of data and processes. I was really surprised in the asset health session the other day in that what came away as we don't have enough data now. We've gone from we're drowning in data to now we don't have enough. Data is cheap to acquire and to process, according to one of our speakers, and that the cost structure has changed so that the labor is the expensive part. So let's employ more technology and less people. It was an interesting take, I thought. But no doubt the challenges persist. Are we ready for the technology? Security is a huge one and remains that way. We're still kind of lacking on the standard side. We've come a long way on the interoperability side, in my opinion. Data management has gotten better. Change management is going to be the bugaboo, as it always is and always will be, in my opinion. Capability development and culture. I think the key to really making change is those people. It's the culture and the change management. The rest will come, but you have to do those first. Perhaps I should reorder my priorities here.